Hey guys, welcome back. We are gonna be doing something a little bit different. I picked up two easy deflators, not the ARB brand. I don't know what's up with something must be just one of the lights above me. Anyways, easy deflators from a company called Rockwheelin'. Now they are somewhat local. They're out of Calgary, Alberta, and both out of rockwheelin.ca. I'm not paid for this by any means, guys, but what I am going to do is do a quick review. They have a digital one, and I believe it comes in at like 55 bucks. I'll put a link below, and if the prices are wrong, I'll correct them on the screen as well. And I believe this is $45. Overall construction compared to an ARB Easy Deflator, very similar. Snap ring in there, really simple. We're going to tear one of these apart and take a look. We're also going to do a test on the gauges. So the first thing I'm noticing is the power did not turn on. Pop off. And it looks like there's no indication that they're anything special. Pretty cheap flimsy plastic, to be honest. I don't expect much for $55 on a digital gauge, but two AA batteries. It says it's a 0 to 200 psi gauge, whereas the mechanical is only a 0 to 60. So we're also going to test the accuracy. This looks like it's going to be 1/8 inch MPT. I'm going to spin it off and I'm going to compare it to a calibrated pressure gauge that I have here at work, and we'll go from there. So I'll be right back. I'm going to get the right batteries, put the batteries in, we'll fire it up, we'll go through the functions between probably kPa, bar, PSI, just to kind of compare. And as you can tell, this gauge is a standard 0 to 60. We're also going to pop one of these off, the C-clips off, and pull the tool right out so you can take a look at how it's built. Be right back. Okay, so I got the mechanical one all torn apart, pulled the snap ring off pretty quick. This is actually a really good example of seeing what's going on. So in the closed position, you can see, and I'm see if I pull this right apart, but there's a little hole here. So now this is seated, and you slide this up, and then now the valve stem slides up with it, and then air pressure is going to push it up, and then it vents out of this hole. You're totally seated in there as you pull this up. Now that air hole is exposed and you are venting air. There is just an O-ring in here, two O-rings, top and bottom, which give you your seals. I would highly suggest, and even on the ARBs, guys, keeping lube available, just some white lithium grease, nothing crazy. See if I can get it to focus, so that way you don't have a seal fail. So that's pretty simple. Both are built the exact same way in that regard. Again, there's just this little valve stem remover tool, effectively. There we go. Okay, so I got this really torn apart small crescent wrench here. I took the case off, the outer shell case off, and then I just held on and threaded off really easy. First thing I can see right away is they use an O-ring to seal. So if you're leaking, and it looks like it might be just a straight cut thread, so that is just a straight cut thread, which really sucks because it doesn't hold well. But if you are leaking, I would highly suggest tightening this to here, so you can see like that one's still tight. But tighten those two together and that'll hold. So now we're gonna be able to really start testing. I put a battery in it, powers up, 200 psi, auto zeros, which is a nice function, has a battery gauge, kPa, bar, kgaf per centimeter cubed, kilograms of force per centimeter cubed. Not an often used reading. Again, then PSI, and then power on button, and then it looks like there's an LED behind here, so you can see the green light shines through. And now if I press and hold that, there was no instructions with it. Okay, so if you press and hold the on and off button, a light pops on. So that's kind of nice when you're at night trying to get the your tires aired up and you can't quite see your valve stem. Overall, pretty good brightness level of the gauge. Be able to see it pretty much full time. Let me get set up here, guys. I'm gonna get this comparing to a calibrated gauge and we will find out how close it is. Okay, so I've got the pressure gauges unhooked. I got my bench ready to go. It's at 0 psi to start with. It's not plugged in, so we're gonna power these up. Big advantage right now over this gauge, this auto zeros. And I'll turn the backlight on so you guys can see. It is also at 0 psi, so we're starting the test off at 0 psi. We're going to connect the 1/4 inch chunk of tubing, and somebody's probably sitting there thinking, man, he's got more money in that tubing assembly than he does a gauge. I absolutely do right now. Plug this in. 0 leakage. We're gonna bring this up. So our reference is this gauge. Our test is this gauge. And I'm sorry for the light. One psi already on the right, nothing on the left. Two psi on the right, no registration on the left. Oh, okay, we're starting to see some registration. 3.2 psi to 1.5. We're going to bring this to an even 5 psi. psi and steady, measuring 3.3. My bench gauge 4.97. So you cannot say that this gauge is out when my bench gauge is also reading. So it's 1.8, 1.7 psi out on at 5. psi, still that 1.8, 1.7 psi out. We have 8.3 or 10 psi. 10 psi, 8.3, 9.97. psi, 15.1, 15. 13.4. So it's starting to close the gap, but that's because we're up that 0.1 and 15 on the money there. $20, 18.4, 20.1. Now we're getting into pretty daily wheeling pressures. So 25 psi, it reads 23.4. 30, 28.4. 35, 33.4. 40, 38.5, 40.1. 43.5. So this is what I was saying, 43.4. I will say it will get more accurate as it gets closer to its top end. 50, 48.5, 50.1. So now I'm gonna vent this off. I want to check its downscale. So we're just going to go straight to 25 psi. Downscales where this unit will be used more than upscale. It's not an inflation gauge, it is a decrease. So we're going from 50 psi down to 25 psi. At 25 psi, 24.9, we are 23.2. Again, so it holds a pretty accurate or pretty repeatable measurement in accuracy. Let's pull it down to 15. So you're not quite happy with where at 25 psi, you're like, you know what, I'm going to test my beads, I'm going to go to 15 psi. How far out are you using this rock wheeling digital pressure gauge that you think is 100% accurate? At 15 psi, you are almost 2 psi out. So keep that in mind, guys. If you're going to be using this, and I have the overall construction for a cheap setup is good, but it is out by 2 psi. So you have a 2 psi loss, almost a 2 psi loss. So when you're at 15, you're like, oh, I blew a bead. You're actually almost at 13. Now for us beadlock guys, we're down at 10 psi now. 8. And then, oh, you're snow wheeling and you want a little more traction. Five psi. So reality is to use this, so you say, oh, I'm at 3 psi, you're actually at 5. So it's a little bit on the safer side to be reading low than reading high. If this read high, I'd be a little more concerned, but it's reading low, so that's always a plus. And then again, we're gonna just watch when this one dies off. So it does not measure after 1 psi. So at about 2.5 psi, this stopped measuring. So now I have one more test to do. I have a 100 psi port that I'm going to put on both these gauges. 108.4, 106.8. So pretty linear measurement loss across the board, 1.8 to 1.5 psi. And then how does it do with a bleed down? Bleed down does excellent. So we're gonna get set up on the mechanical gauge, guys. We're gonna do an actual test with this, but overall, if you were buying the digital gauge, it's about a 2% accuracy of full scale. So what that means, actually 1% accuracy of full scale. What that means is at 1% of 200 psi is 2 psi. And it's a little better than that. You could call it 0.9% accuracy of full scale. What that means is it's out by 1 psi and it's low. So it's negative 1%. It's a pretty blanket statement. So it's out almost, it reads low by about 2 psi, and that's fine. I'm not going to make the general blanket statement that all of them will be that way, but pretty standard to say that this unit will likely be pretty close to the same. We're going to get set up on this mechanical gauge. We're going to test the mechanical gauge up to 60 psi if we can, and we're going to see when it starts registering. I expect better results out of this because it's a smaller range. Give me 5 minutes and I will be back. Hey guys, I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to split the mechanical and the digital gauge. So if you showed up for the mechanical gauge, there is another video and it's going to be linked right below. They're dropping the same day, the same time. So you can make an educated decision on whether you prefer the mechanical gauge or the digital gauge. Guys, I have acquired a great deal for you guys though. I'm not being paid or sponsored for this, but I did enjoy both deflation gauges, rapid tire deflators. I love them both. So I reached out to Rock Wheeling and got you guys a discount code. This is my first official discount code. This is pretty cool. So if you guys go to rockwheeling.ca, and it's going to be linked down below, there'll be a hot link right now, and you can buy either one of those. RJO15, RJO15 will give you a 15% discount on those deflation rapid tire deflators. So if you buy one, let me know in the comments below, in the video, not Facebook, not not Reddit, not whatever. So if you bought one, let me know in the comments below. If we hit 20 sales for Rock Wheeling, and I'm not getting paid, but if we hit 20 sales with them, if you are subscribed, I need evidence. I will pay. I'm gonna buy one of your guys' rapid tire deflators. I'll e-transfer you. I will PayPal you, whatever works out the best for you, or cash if you want cold hard cash. So if you enjoyed this video and you thought, hey man, one of those look really good, and I've been an ARB guy for a long time, grab one, use that 15% off. Let me know in the comments below that you did. Let me know that you're subscribed. I'm gonna heart it, and if I heart your comment, I know you've been entered. Again, if we sell 20, I'm gonna pay for whoever's order on that tire deflator out of my own pocket. So again, RJO15 across the screen here on rockwheelin.ca for either the mechanical or digital gauge. I hope you guys enjoyed the videos. Not often that I'm going to drop 2 videos. And then hopefully tomorrow, hopefully a Saturday drop too. So a triple video drop. Cool. See you guys in the next one.